Chris Jones will be in the building for the Chiefs, and they'll need him because, as you mentioned, Derrick Henry, who played for the Titans his entire career, he's now joined the fray. And one of the big criticisms of the Ravens from the AFC Championship, they only ran the ball 11 times. I got a feeling that with Derrick Henry back there, they probably will run the ball more than 11 times on Thursday night. Here's Derrick Henry on whether he wished he could have been around for the Ravens to help that ground game that never really got going in the AFC title game in January.
Hell yeah, I was wishing I could suit up that day watching that game. But now it's my turn, so gotta take advantage of it. It's gonna be a hell of a game. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just football. I've been playing since I was 5 years old. But the atmosphere and it being the first game at night, them coming off a Super Bowl, it being at home at Arrowhead, which the environment is gonna be loud. It's gonna be hostile, but that's what you want. I mean, especially on opening night. Everybody watching the first game of the year to kick off the 2024 season. So I'm excited. It's going to be fun, so I'm looking forward to it.
Derrick Henry is, I think, the closest thing we've seen to Jim Brown in the modern game, the way he runs. You give him a couple of yards, he's got a head of steam, and he just will blow through you, knock you down with a stiff arm, etc. But he is 30. I wasn't sure whether or not he was 30. He turned 30 in January. He's got a lot of wear and tear. 2,030 rushing attempts, another 155 touches in the passing game, 9,500 rushing yards, 5,000-yard seasons, one 2,000-yard season in 2020. And I think back to Eddie George, who was a great member of the Titans. And again, this is something you and I might have discussed because I can't remember who the hell the co-host is on any given day.
I think it was me.
But yeah. With Eddie George, the wheels never really came off with one big incident. It just kind of got to the point where couldn't do it anymore. And I just wonder, because it's going to happen for everyone who's playing in the NFL, and the closer you are to the action, the more banged up you're going to be, and you're just going to get to the point where it's like, all those guys are faster than me. All those guys are stronger than me. I don't know what's gone on. Yeah, what's gone on is a career of playing football and getting banged around. Remember the knock on, and it's still there for Alabama running backs under Nick Saban. They get chewed up and spit out by him, how intense he is at practice and how he uses them in games. There was always a concern that Derrick Henry wasn't going to have tread on the tire when he got to the NFL. And here we are. He's at age 30, which is like, 50 or 60, God forbid, for a running back. I just wonder whether it's a little faulty to assume we're taking Derrick Henry, Titans, and plugging him in and he's going to be the exact same guy. I hope he is. He's fun to watch, and I hope that he's able to stave it off. But we know from experience that with running backs, it can change. For Frank Gore, it didn't. For Adrian Peterson, it didn't, at least not until deeper into his 30s. For Derrick Henry, we're about to find out.
Well, yeah, look, I think one of the two interesting elements that are on that graph that we were just showing, if y'all could put that back up. I mean, if you look at the yards per carry for Derrick Henry last year, it was 4.2, right? And so even though he was second in the league in rushing, he didn't even make it to 1,200 yards. And so when you've got somebody who had the most attempts in rushing, 280, and he only had 1,167 yards, that to me says a lot about the state of rushing in the NFL. But it also says something either about the offensive line or what was going on with Derrick Henry in terms of where his physicality is and how he can still be productive in terms of where we are in the NFL today. So that also could say something about the offensive line, So it's interesting because when you have Lamar Jackson and you have Derrick Henry at the same time, I mean, that is an absolute nightmare for teams that have to defend you in short yardage situations. I mean, if it is 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, I don't know what you're going to do to stop that. Because all they got to do is go zone read. And, if you overplay Derrick Henry, then Lamar Jackson is going to take the ball and he's going to go for 10 yards. If you try to play just Lamar Jackson, then, boy, you better be strong at the point of attack in Derrick Henry because you're not going to stop him for just 1 or 2 yards most of the time. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So that's it really presents a lot of challenges for defenses. And I think it takes some pressure off of Derrick Henry for sure if he is playing in the same backfield as Lamar Jackson. I think that alone should make him a little bit more productive when it comes to yards per carry. I mean, if he's not at least 4.5, then that's when I would say, okay, yeah, the physical cliff, the father time, that's what's really come for Derrick Henry if he's not averaging 4.5 yards a carry.
The 4.2 matches a career low. It was back in 2017 when he was sharing touches with DeMarco Murray and hadn't fully blossomed into a workhorse tailback. His best 2 seasons, 2019 and 2020, when he had 1,540 yards and 2,027 respectively. In 2019, he averaged 5.1 yards per carry. In 2020, he averaged 5.4 yards per carry. So that really is going to be one of the issues. And has it been offensive line? Is it quality of quarterback play? There's a lot of factors that go into how many yards a running back is going to gain when he gets the ball in his hands. But that's one of the big questions that we're going to resolve starting tomorrow night. What Derrick Henry is going to look like as a member of the Baltimore Ravens, how he's going to perform in that offense. And again, I'm just inclined to bet the over in my own mind, because I just want to see Derrick Henry play like we've seen Derrick Henry play. It's fitting because, he's kind of playing for Jim Brown's Browns now.
I knew you were going to do
so
this.
It would be
I knew you were going to do this. Don't you dare.
What?
Stop it.
Is
Stop
it-
it. Stop
is
it.
it not
I'm
accurate?
No.
Is it not accurate?
I'm not gonna let you sit here and talk about the Ravens, which are technically an expansion franchise, and they do not have the name, image, likeness, colors of the Browns. If you really want to talk about who's the successor to 32, is number 24 for the Cleveland Browns, and his name is Nick Chubb, and he is one of the only players who continues to average over 5 yards per carry this far into his career. So don't even go there with me, Mike. I'm not. No way. Don't do it.
We can quibble about how the Ravens and Browns came to be, but you can't call the Ravens an expansion franchise because there was an existing franchise that just happened to have an address in Northeast Ohio that relocated to Baltimore with all the teams, with all the personnel in the front office, with all the coaches except Bill Belichick, who they fired. And I think it's the Browns that get accused of firing Bill Belichick from time to time. It's like, no, it wasn't the Browns anymore when Bill Belichick got fired, right?
That is correct. It was the unnamed Baltimore franchise. I'm glad that you pointed that out because so many people get that wrong, and it's not fair that the Browns did not fire Bill Belichick. Art Modell did, yeah. Great owner he was.
All right. I hope that made you feel better because it made me feel pretty good to point that out. And I always look for the gratuitous opportunity to point out that the Ravens are the old Browns and the Browns are the new Browns that were the expansion team from 1999. So I was glad that came along. And it took me a while for the synapses to fire, but it happened.
Okay, you have a chance to win $1 million in the NBC sweepstakes on Yahoo Fantasy. Just download the redesigned Yahoo Fantasy app or go to NBCSports.com/fantasymillion for additional details. What are you waiting for?
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.